Yo, this is Nappy Boy Radio Live with your boy T-Pain. We love rap music. Listen.
Oh God.
Oh.
Getting ready. We're getting ready. Get ready. I feel a lot taller than you. Oh no, you look like my child. Here we go.
No?
Yeah. Stay hydrated, kids. Ready?
Ready. What's happening, guys? Loz and Migs here with another video. Sorry for not uploading last week, actually, because
we've been bad.
We've been bad. We need to get into the routine of like filming weekly and things like that.
It's not even that we don't want to do it. We always think to do it, and then time with this that, and the other just runs away, doesn't it?
Yeah. We really have to plan our time a bit better.
How COVID-19 has affected our businesses.
Yes. We're going to give you guys some positive points and also some negative points. But I feel like this is going to be a very useful video for people who have not started a business this year, or who have, and who have experienced the same things. We'll try and help you on what we did to kind of on what we did.
Well, I suppose it's not really going to be useful. It's just going to be...
It might be.
Why? So, we're just going to tell you a few things that we experienced and how we overcame them, and some things were good, some things were bad, and some things were pretty normal. But yeah, we'll show you and tell you what we experienced.
We wrote down a few things. Let's just get it up for you guys.
Let's just take it back to, I can't remember the exact date we went into lockdown. I know it was
like March. That was like the 13th.
You're like this.
Alright.
You're such a fiddler. You're like literally like this, like scratching your head.
Oh God.
We went into lockdown, I think it was like the 3rd week of March, towards the end of March. And this caused a lot of businesses to stop, shut up shop. And this was quite a severe lockdown. It was only essential stores that could stay open. I feel like we were pretty worried about that, because we rely on so many other businesses to keep our business going.
Yeah.
I know a few manufacturers that I was in touch with, they'd stopped because the furlough scheme had come out. That affected us in the way that our timelines were being pushed back. Things that we expected to be done by beginning of April, mid-April, end of April, them certain projects weren't able to be done within that time. Yeah. Which is no one's fault. It's to be expected. If they can't operate, they can't operate. And you find in a lot of manufacturers, they work quite close together. It's like, it's quite an active environment, isn't it? You're running from one department to the next, doing this, sewing this, whatever. Yeah. So it does make sense that they weren't really able to work it out. As our business, we get stuff from other businesses. Other businesses get stuff from other businesses. So it's a massive chain sometimes of where people get their supplies from, which just has a literal domino effect. If they can't get that, then you can't have this kind of thing.
It didn't affect me that much, but it affected me for about a week or two, which is not big, but it kind of, you know, especially when you like, because I had to I was at a point where I had to release the 1 mil logo t-shirts. Yeah. And I was getting it from my manufacturer, but he couldn't get it because his manufacturer was closed. Yeah. So it was kind of like I was waiting for my manufacturer, but he was waiting for his manufacturer to open. And it was just like all over the place, which delayed it for a little while.
Massive knock-on effect.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned it was a few weeks, which this is turning like a negative into a positive, because a few weeks isn't bad in the grand scheme of things. Like, there was literally a killer bug about. I always use quite little businesses to get my labels done, or my hang tags and things like that. That's where I found the most delay, actually, because in the grand scheme of things they're not essential businesses, and we know that small businesses were affected the worst. So we found like a lot of them places weren't able to make up any trade. So luckily in that situation, this is where buying maybe more than you think you need comes into play. And I think the word lockdown was looming for at least a week or two before we actually happened. I think when we didn't know the fine print of what would be included and what's not, and literally when he announced it, it was like, you can go and buy bread but nothing else.
Yeah, crazy.
So that was number one issue, I would say. And then it ties in with the fact that because everything else was locking down and people weren't working, were people going to be spending money in the online fashion industry? I
feel like at first you were getting a lot of support because people at home, they were still buying certain things. They were still like online shopping and things like that. So I feel like it weren't as bad, but then after a while, as it got worse in a way, I feel like people started spending less, and because they're at home, they're kind of seeing so many different other brands. We'll get into that later. But I think it's interesting because I think as time went on, people realised it wasn't just going to be, you know, a few weeks in lockdown and that's it. So they realised how badly this pandemic was going to affect everything. Therefore they were thinking, well, actually at the end of this I could be facing redundancy, not just like a few months on furlough. So that's a worry. But I also think, because I found it was a bit wavy, a bit like you'd see at the beginning people were like, oh whatever, just carried on a bit like normal, probably online shopped more because they were working at home or sitting at home, whatever. And then they, you know, got a bit worried and people stopped spending so much and, you know, oh gosh, what's happening here? And then I think it came up again when people were like, well, got to make the best out of a bad situation, let me buy me some nice stuff. Yeah, because then people found out that the furlough scheme was up until October. And they thought, oh, that's alright. But they didn't think of the fact of redundancy possibly coming out. They was just thinking, oh, I'm on furlough, I'll be alright. Still getting paid. Very interesting how environmental factors influence your buyers, and you can notice the trends, and it almost like correlates to what people are feeling. So like you could notice when people were a bit like, oh, like it could even be like after Boris Johnson would speak and say that, oh, like it's getting worse, it's getting worse. There goes the peaking, it goes down in sales. And then it's like people are like, oh, we could be coming out of lockdown now. Oh, great. So it's really interesting in that sense. But obviously with that, your emotions too are going, oh god, it's not good. Oh, okay, we're gonna be fine. Oh no, not so good. So emotional roller coaster, really. But so that was a half good, half bad. But yeah, it was interesting to see that. But it's just like very unknowing times, which as an overall is worrying for a business owner. Next one is statistics of new brands. We basically heard a statistic from someone who basically does like
fashion consulting.
She said, what was the statistics? I completely forgot.
So I think, I can't remember the period of time, but I think since lockdown started, there has been overall 70-odd thousand new businesses.
Crazy.
72, something like that.
Yeah.
The one that stuck out to us, obviously, is she said in terms of fashion brands, there are over 5,500 new fashion brands. Competition is high.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, especially, it's crazy because if you put two and two together, when we first started the video, we touched on people being at home.
Yeah.
And then you bring in 5.5 other brands, including us.
Yeah.
Who have also like started the brand.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like people at home, and they're seeing so many different brands. It's crazy,
Yeah.
especially the main node brands like Next, Zara. They're also like doing
well.
more online things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're seeing so many brands, so many clothing brands that like
you are just a small.
yeah, so small. Literally so tiny because
Small
there's so
part.
many other people who are
Small
out there.
fish in a big pond.
Crazy, like that statistic is mad.
Yeah.
Because you're competing with so many different brands.
Yeah. So it is like, it's helpful that everyone's at home, everyone's more interactive, and we started as an online brand, so it wasn't like we had to move a lot of stuff from being a retail shop to like moving it online. We were already there, so that's good. But since we're still in the startup stage, we don't have that lead, like that head point of being like Zara. Everyone knows Zara.
Oh yeah.
Let me just jump on Zara. So we're still trying to compete for attraction and interaction, along with, you know, another 5,500 brands that popped up. So that is interesting.
Crazy.
It's probably a escapism, like especially if you're furloughed and you can't work from home. It's different if you're working from home, you can build in some sort of structure, but if you're furloughed and you're just sitting there all day every day, you need some stimulation. So people have probably thought, oh, what's a smart way to deal with my time, putting it into a business, which is an investment, and see what happens. So I would have expected that, to be honest. I would have expected all of these, and people aren't used to having this much time, like especially being in London, and I think, well, some parts of England aren't like this, but London is so fast paced. Like everyone is doing something all the time. Like got to be doing this, that and the other. Like there's no chilled, relaxed time. So I think when everyone was told that they needed to stay home and all they could do was relax and stay indoors, it probably started getting the cogs turning a bit. That's probably a negative, isn't it? High amounts of competition. Although you shouldn't be scared of competition. You should be, you should trust in your product and what you're selling. But
yeah, you have to find a way to be different as well.
Yeah.
And the next point we have is difference in income due to work. I had a difference in income, a negative difference in income, because I went from being redundant to obviously earning less, because I had to get a different job and things like that. Especially during this lockdown, I had to just, you know, just keep it humble and just get whatever I could in order to keep my life going.
Yeah.
Especially due to finances, I had to just, you know, take one on the chin and just move on.
I think a lot of people have found they've had to do that.
I did kind of prepare myself in a way, so I did kind of do a few things that kind of helped me to make that drastic change, but yeah, that's another topic. But yeah, that kind of affected my brand, my business, my clothing brand, because obviously I don't have as much as I had before to invest into it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that difference in income, I didn't really get to use it as what I wanted to, because as soon as I started my brand, literally lockdown came. So literally I started my brand in like March, beginning of March, February, end of February.
Yeah.
And then literally like a month after we're in lockdown. So it's kind of like I didn't really get to use my the income that I had before to.
Yeah, and I think it's key that just so you guys are aware, like you didn't save up a massive bunch of money to invest into neither did I. Neither of us did that.
Yeah.
We're more like gradually putting into the business. So being in the first year of business especially, we are finding that we're having to invest a lot of our money, which is to be expected really. I think you hear a lot of people start up businesses with 10k, 15k, 20k.
Yeah.
So
if you're blessed like that,
if you're blessed like that, that's great. But we're having to do it bit by bit. So our kind of 9 to 5 jobs really were important. I mean, I was lucky that I was working in the NHS, so my money was still there. In fact, I upped my hours because I was needed more, which worked in my favour. But I mean, who can predict it? But that really did rock the boat, in the sense of you start having to think creatively about how you're going to sustain your business and keep going.
Yeah.
Right now we have no choice but to be careful with the money that we put into our businesses.
Yeah.
And we don't have large sums to do at once. So every decision we make, we're like, right, this is the budget we've got for this month. What's the priorities? And again, that reflection on thinking on what your priorities are, what the business needs, and really like homing in on the absolute vitals means that we're hitting the key things that we need to.
Yeah, exactly. That brings on to the next one.
Yeah.
Which is
being at home more.
Yeah.
So because obviously we run our businesses from home at the moment, with lockdown happening and meaning that you are at home more, and I've seen a lot of people trying to emphasize it, and I think it's really key of turning this negative thing, which is, you know, a really bad health crisis is going on, which means a lot of people feel isolated at home, but utilizing that time to become creative, or to, you know, put some energy into things that you feel like you don't normally have time to do. And we definitely felt that, didn't we?
Yeah,
that we had time. It
was definitely, that's a very positive point, because for me, I was on a full-time shift work. Do you get what I mean? So even though I had the extra money to put into a business, I didn't have the time, because I'm full-time literally all day. I'm either doing a morning shift 5 to 1, and then I'm hella tired, or I'm doing a 1 to 10 late shift. So it's literally, there's no like in between, and it's all, it weekly differentiates. So it's kind of like going from that into working less. I have so much more time to focus on my business, so much more time to do this, do that, which is a very positive thing that I kind of enjoyed. I'm getting used to it as well. Time
is money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think obviously it's very easy to say this if you haven't been detrimentally affected, and I don't want to say, oh, you know, it's great, you've got some more spare time, because it's not as black and white for some people. But I'm saying, if you are able to not worry about it too much, and if your situation hasn't been that badly affected, then time is such a blessing. If you started a business, it might have helped you, you know, focus on other things instead of just like being in your mind all the time. Do you get what I mean? Yeah, definitely. So like, there's definitely a few positives out of that. Yeah, just a way to be creative and like get out some of that energy that you feel that you've got contained from being, you know, inside. Yeah. So I think that is again a negative switched into a positive. There is some positive points, there is some negative points, but yeah, everyone kind of has their own experience. Yeah. All we can say is it's been a crazy year. Who would have known that this decade was gonna start like this? Absolutely wild. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We have our brands in the link below. LBL, 1 mil. Brands are in the description below. 1 mil clothing. You know what it is. Lux by Laura. Yeah. Thank you for watching another video. Hopefully we'll try and stay more consistent. Yeah, we will be. Stay tuned. We'll have more coming. And thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. Peace. Need a thumbnail.
Okay, this is good.
I think we have a few from that.
Or should we do like how?